Okay, today we're going to cover 6.3. We're going to solve equations with rational coefficients. So that's with decimals and with fractions. Okay, so we have no definitions this week, or today. So decimal coefficients is your number, your coefficient is your number in front of your letter, and if it's a decimal, that's what's going to be in front of your letter. So copy these down. 16 is equal to 0.25n. So we solve these the exact same way that we solved our other one-step equations. So what's happening between our 0.25 and our n? So here's our n, and there's our decimal. That's multiplication that's happening between those. The opposite of multiplication is division. So we divide both sides by 0.25. So again, I'm showing 3 steps. I have my original problem, what I'm doing to both sides. I'll bring down my n and my equal sign. So I plug this into my calculator. 16 divided by 0.25. Okay. And that's going to give you 64. So n is equal to 64. Number 2, 10 is equal to 0.5x. So we divide both sides by 0.5. So plug that into your calculator. So you have x is equal to 10 divided by 0.5 is 20. So x is equal to 20. So it's the exact same thing that we were working on last week. Just now we have a decimal. So go ahead and copy these down and solve them. If you use a calculator, it should not take you very long, so I highly encourage that you do that. Okay, pause this if you need more time, but we're going to go over this. So I'm going to divide both sides by 0.8. Your number in front of your letter is what we're dividing by. So that cancels out. So you have m is equal to 6.4 divided by 0.8 is 8. B, we have negative 2.8p is equal to 4.2. We divide both sides by negative 2.8. So our negative 2.8's cancel out, so we have p is equal to negative 1.5. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. And C, we have negative 4.7k is equal to negative 10.81. We divide both sides by negative 4.7. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, so no, my answer is going to be positive. So I have k is equal to 2.3. Okay. So check your answers, please. So that's the same thing that we were doing, except now just with decimals. Copy this down, please. Jay as coach agreed to buy ice cream for all of the team members. Ice cream cones are $2.40 each. Write and solve an equation to find how many cones the coach can buy with $30. So you don't need to write this part down, but make sure that you have this in your notes, please. Okay, pause this if you need more time to copy that down. So how much does it cost for an ice cream cone? It costs $2.40. Okay. They want n to represent the number of cones. So it's $2.40 for an ice cream cone. We don't know how many they're going to buy. So I'm going to put n to represent how many they buy. So 240n is equal to, how much money does he have to spend total? $30 is the max. So here's my expression. There's the first part. The second part, I'm going to show my work. I divide both sides by 2.40. Sure, that looks like a 0, sorry. And my third part will be my answer. So when I plug it into my calculator, 30 divided by 2.40, I end up with 12.5. Okay. But what are we talking about? We're talking about ice cream cones. Can you buy half of an ice cream cone? No, you can't. So what do we have to do with this number? We're going to have to round it. But are we going to round up or are we going to round down? This is kind of tricky. We're going to round down, and here's why. This is one of the few cases where you do that. We have half of an ice cream cone here. If we pay for half of an ice cream cone, are they going to give us the other half for free? No, they're not. So we can only get the number of ice creams, the whole number of ice cream cones that we can afford to buy. So the coach can only afford to buy 12 cones. We cannot round that up to 13 because they will not give us half of a cone for free. That's not how companies work. So our answer is he can buy 12 cones. Okay, now we're going to do the exact same thing but with a different price. So suppose the ice cream cones cost $2.80 each. How many ice cream cones could the coach buy with $42? So go ahead and copy this down and solve it, please. Okay, if you need more time, go ahead and pause this. So we're going to set this up the same way. It's $2.80 per cone, so I'll use N again, is equal to $42. That's how much that we have to spend total. So I divide both sides by $2.80. And I get N is equal to 15. So how many ice cream cones can he buy with $42? He can buy 15 cones. So that gave us a nice whole number. We didn't have to round anything there, so that was nice. Okay, next we're going to start working on our fractions. So if your coefficient, if your number in front of your letter is a fraction, we're going to do something a little bit differently. So copy this down. 3/4 x is equal to 12 over 20. I'm going to copy it down again over here and give myself some more room. Okay, this next part, you don't need to put in your notes, but I just want you to be aware of why we're going to do what we do. So just follow along here. So if we have 3/4 x, this is multiplication. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3/4. So that gives me 12 over 20, so x is equal to 12 over 20 divided by 3/4. There's a certain thing that I have to do when I divide by a fraction. Remember what that is? That's keep, change, flip. So you keep your first number the same, you change your sign from a division to a multiplication, and you flip your second number. Well, anytime you divide by a fraction, you have to do keep, change, flip. So can I just skip all this work and go straight to my flip, multiplying by my flip? Remember, this is your reciprocal. Yes, you can. Okay. So this is the part that I want you to write down. So write down what I have here in purple, and then what I'm going to write in red, or sorry, in black. So instead of going through all of these steps, I'm going to kind of just do it in my head. I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of this number, the flip. So I'm going to multiply, there's the change, by my flip, by my reciprocal. So that 4 and that 4 cancel out, that 3 and that 3 cancel out. Okay. I can cross reduce here. So this can be divided by 4, and this can be divided by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 20 divided by 4 is 5. This can be divided by 3, and this can be divided by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. I'm going to erase this and give myself some more room. So I'm left with x is equal to 4 times 1 is 4 over 5 times 1 is 5. There's my final answer. So we multiply both sides by the reciprocal of our coefficient. So if our coefficient is a fraction, we multiply both sides by the reciprocal. We flip it. Cross reduce here because it's easier than simplifying here. So there's our answer. X is equal to 4/5. We're going to do the same thing over here. So I have negative 7/9 d is equal to 5. So I'm going to multiply both sides by my reciprocal, negative 9/7. Do not forget that negative. So that 9 cancels out, 7 cancels out, your negatives cancel out because a negative times a negative is a positive. So we're left with just d over here. So far so good. That's what we want. I have a whole number here. I need to change that to a fraction, so I put it over 1. Can I cross-reduce anything? No, we can't cross-reduce anything here, so we just have to multiply. 5 times 9 is 45, over 1 times 7 is 7. What am I missing? I'm missing my negative. A positive times a negative is a negative. So I have d is equal to negative 45/7. I need to change this to a mixed number. I need to simplify this. How many times does 7 go into 45? It's going to go in 6 times, and I need to bring out my negative. So negative 6, with how many left over? 6 times 7 is 42, and so I'm going to have 3 7s left over. So d is equal to negative 6 and 3 7s. There's my final answer. So you multiply both sides by your reciprocal. If this is a fraction, you flip it and multiply both sides by that number. So go ahead and copy these down and give these a shot on your own, please. If you need more time, go ahead and pause this and take more time. So for e, we're going to multiply both sides by 2 over 1. So that cancels out, so I'm left with x is equal to 8 times 2 is 16. For f, we multiply both sides by negative 4/3 times negative 4/3. This cancels out over here, so I have x is equal to, I'm going to put this over 1. I can reduce this. That can be divided by 3, and that can be divided by 3. So that becomes a 1, and this becomes a 3. So I have 3 times negative 4, which is negative 12, and 1 times 1, which is 1. So negative 12 over 1 is just negative 12. And g, negative 7/8 x is equal to negative 21 over 64. So I multiply both sides by negative 8/7. Flip your number. That cancels out, so I have x is equal to, I can divide this by 8 and this by 8. So 8 divided by 8 is 1, and 64 divided by 8 is 8. My 7 can be divided by 7, and my 21 can be divided by 7, so that becomes a 1. 21 divided by 7 is 3. And these are both negatives. A negative times a negative is a positive, so those cancel out too. So I have 3 times 1, which is 3, over 8 times 1, which is 8. So I have x is equal to 3/8. There's my final answer for that one. Okay, and here's our last example. Valerie needs 2/3 yard of fabric to make each hat for the school play. Write and solve an equation to find how many hats she can make with 6 yards of fabric. So pause this and take a moment to copy this down, please. So it takes 2/3 a yard per hat. So 2/3 times the number of hats we're going to make, we don't know what that is equal to how much fabric do we have total? We have 6 yards total. So here's my original formula, my original expression. Now I'm going to show you what I'm doing to each side. So times my reciprocal, 3 over 2. I'm going to put this over 1. So that cancels out, I'm left with h is equal to, this can be divided by 2, and this can be divided by 2. Remember, you can only cross-reduce or simplify directly over each other. I cannot reduce the 2 or the 6 and the 3 because they're both numerators. You can only reduce denominator and numerators with each other. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, so I have 3 times 3 is 9 over 1 times 1, which is 1. So h is going to equal to 9 what? We're trying to find out how many hats. So she can make 9 hats. So there's my answer. So this one's similar to problems that we've done in the past. Okay. And you'll see problems like this again in the future. So it's important to understand how we solve these. So what we did today, we divided both sides of our equations by decimals, which is really not anything new. We've dealt with decimals before, and we've solved one-step equations. We just combined them. The second part that we did is we did our dividing both sides by a fraction, but instead of dividing by the fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal. So we combined what we know about keep, change, flip with solving one-step equations and kind of found a little bit of a shortcut there, make it a little bit easier. So just remember, you need to multiply by the reciprocal if you have a fraction in front of your letter. Okay, that's it for today.